Hey guys, welcome to our channel Ireland 360. So I'm back with a new series of videos for Selenium with Python. So before using this Selenium with Python, we'll talk about Selenium. We'll try to understand what is Selenium and why we are referring Python for Selenium. As there are multiple options to use Selenium, but why to go for Python? I'll give you a glimpse of that, and then we'll talk about the Selenium thing. So let's start with the introduction of Selenium. Now, talking about Selenium, it's basically a powerful tool that helps you to and control web browsers through programs and perform browser automation. So basically, this Selenium is used for web applications where you test the tasks related to the web, basically the related to the websites. So basically, we integrate Selenium with Python to offer a simple and the easy way to perform tasks in Selenium. Now, talking about the definition of Selenium, Selenium WebDriver is an open source API that allows you to execute your test against different browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Safari. So basically, when you test a website or when you open a website, you open on certain browser. Now, in real time, straight up, once the website is live, you open in a browser like Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, or Safari, whichever browser you are using. You go with that browser, you open the websites there. Now, Selenium basically provides all these browsers references. Like you have a browser, or basically you have a driver that's similar to your Chrome browsers or the Firefox browsers, and we perform testings on those drivers. So basically, this Selenium WebDrivers helps to perform testing in a similar platform that acts like the real-time browsers. Now, we need to know a few key points of using Selenium with Python. Now, as I already said, that Selenium is supportable in different languages. Like it's supportable in Java, it's supportable in C Sharp, and many more. So why we go for Python? What are the key points that you have to keep in mind when you are using Python? So the best and the very first point is that easy integration with Python. Now I'll just show you this thing that how this easy integration with Python, this point matters. Basically here, when we write codes in Python, it's very simple to write test cases. And in fact, the codes that you write, it looks very familiar when you're writing in terms of Python. Now it provides you cross browser and cross platform testing. So cross browser means basically you have different browsers like Chrome and all, and platforms like you can use on different platforms like Windows, MacBook. So you have different environments available where you can perform testing using Selenium. So it's available in all cases. Now, access to web elements. So basically, when a website is designed, you will find different elements on the websites. Like elements, I mean to say that the clickable items, the login buttons, or maybe you have forms where you enter the values. Now, through Selenium, we connect to those elements. And when we are connecting to those elements, there are certain keywords or that's used to, or you can say there are certain attributes that we use to define the sections in the websites. So here Selenium helps to access to those sections. So sections like ID, name, XPath, or basically ID, name, XPath, these are the attributes that usually you'll find in a website. So through Selenium, we can maintain a connectivity through these basically through these locators. So basically this helps you to find the elements easily. Now the fourth point here is automated testings and task automations. Now, when you basically do automation testings, so here you perform automation testings and you have certain tasks that like form submissions, UI testing, user flow stimulations. So basically all these are different tasks that you will come across and that's performed through Seleniums. Now, the best part of Selenium is that it's integrated with other tools as well, like TestNG or PyTest. In Python, basically, we use PyTest for managing the test cases, and these frameworks are basically integrated with Selenium. And one of the best frameworks, Jenkins. Yeah, if you have not heard about it, I'll tell you about this. Basically, in this platform, we maintain a CI/CD process. So this is basic. This comes inside the DevOps part. So Selenium is supportable in the Jenkins platform too. So that's the best part of Selenium is we can integrate the Selenium codes there as well. So this is the key points that you have to know about Selenium. Basically, these things you keep in mind when you do testing in Selenium, and you'll get an idea what it provides. Now, when I was talking about the thing that Selenium in Python, why did I select Selenium in Python? Why I'm going with Selenium with Python? So in that case, there is a key point that you need to know, or basically I'll give you a small comparison where Selenium makes task or makes testing easy. Now, these are the different languages basically supportable in Selenium like .NET, Ruby, Java, Python, JavaScript. We are going with this Python thing. Now you'll say all these languages are supported, but why Python? So if you go to the documentation part here, and if you open the code, so this is the code for Python, but the same code if I open in terms of Java. So just take an overview. It's not like I'm explaining something, but just I'm giving an overview how Selenium makes things easier here is. Like you see, it's a class defined. Again, a main method is here, and then we write the steps inside it. So if you count the number of steps, it's all together some around 3 to 5, 6 steps you have to write to basically execute a code in Java. Now the same thing when I'm doing in Python, we do in 3 steps. So what happens? Just it becomes half of it. So the first thing which I was talking about, like performing tasks or writing codes, basically it's easier in Selenium. I mean this, like the steps are very simpler. You have to write steps that's quite familiar and easy to understand. So somehow it makes your task easy. That's the best part of the Python with Selenium. So this is the overview of Selenium with Python. Now we'll talk about, we'll see how to install Python. Now, first let's install Python in our system. So these are the steps basically that you have to go through for the installation purpose. So very first thing it says, visit the official website. That is, the link is here. So however, hover over the download tab and drop menu will appear. For Windows, Python will often display a button suggesting the best version to download. Click on the button to download the latest version of Python. So when I click on this, it takes us here. And in downloads, you see here, the second step is in downloads for Windows, it always suggests which is the latest version that you have to download. And for MacBook, when you click on MacBook, you have all the versions available. So you can take the version, whichever version you require. So right now, if you are doing for Windows, just click on Windows and you'll find the version here. So just when you click on this, you'll see the latest version is downloaded. Now, I would say download the latest version always. Now, why to download the latest version always? So here it says like in future when you'll be installing pip. So pip is basically keyword that's used to is basically used for installing the Python packages. So we use this pip keyword. So we have to install the pip too. But it says that pip is Python package installer and should come installed with Python version 3.4 and above. So if you are using pip, so if you don't want to install pip separately, then in that case, you need to download the Python latest version that's greater than, the version should be greater than 3.4. Right now the version is 3.13. That's greater than 3.4. So if in this version you will see the pip comes by itself, or else you have to go and install pip separately. We'll see that in the steps there. First, let's see how to do the installation. So when I do this, here you go to downloads, and in downloads basically you'll find this Python, this one. So when you double click on this, so you will get an option to install now. Here you have install now. So this is the location where you have to install the Python. So basically you don't go with the customized installation path because it's better you go. Now you see it says includes ideally basically the platform where you can run Python, pip and documentation. So it include these two things when you are installing pip. Okay. when you're installing Python basically. So these two things are already added. Now in my case, it's already installed. So the installation is very easy. Just when you click on install now, the Python will install. And just at last, you will get an option to close. Now in this case of Python, you don't need to set the path of the environments and all that we used to do in Java, because Python itself reads the takes set the environment path and all. So basically, it's very simple. Just click on install now when you click, and by itself the Python will install. And at last you'll have the close button. That means you will see the Python is installed. So here, once the Python is installed, just to check that Python is installed properly or the Python is there in your system, you need to, after it's downloading, now you see double click and click installer. The first installer window makes add this path be install now. So these options you have to do and it will be done. So just to check that Python is installed in your system or not, what you have to do basically is you have to just go to the search bar and open the command prompt, that is CMD. Do here and just write Python double dash version. When you do this, you get the version installed. So right now, though I've downloaded 1.3.13, but in my case, it's when I installed it was 3.11.5. So the version, it shows the version of Python. If you are seeing the version of Python, that means Python is already it's already installed. Now the second step, what you will see here is that the pip. So just to see that pip is installed, you write pip again double dash version. Now this pip is important because in future when you'll be installing the Selenium packages and all, this pip is needed. So when you do this, this will show you the version of pip 2. So this pip version is installed. That's the latest version it had when we were installing Python. So these two things comes together, and also it's showing the location where this pip is available. So this pip is needed basically. So without this pip, you'll found difficulty. So these are the steps that you need to know. Now, if in case the pip is not installed, then you can go with the fifth step number. That is update pip to ensure you have the latest version of pip. So you can upgrade using pip m pip install double dash upgrade pip. So but just by writing this command line, you can install pip. But in this case, when you're downloading Python and if you are using the latest version, then in that case, pip will be installed. And if you want to upgrade it, you can upgrade using this command line. So basically you have to write these command lines to download just to check the version of Python downloaded as well as the pip version. So these are the simpler steps to download Python. You can download Python very easily. The download of Python is installation of Python is the most easiest one. So you have to do nothing, just you have to download it. Now, once the Python is installed, then we will see how to download a platform. Basically, in this case, we are going to use a PyCharm platform. So we'll see how to install and download PyCharm in our next video. So basically, PyCharm is a platform where we are going to write codes, the Python codes, or you say the Selenium codes. We are going to write it down here. And this is basically a ID that stands for Integrated Development Environment. So it's basically a environment where you can run the codes, where you can write codes in Python. And the question is why I'm using PyCharm. That's one of the most important question, that why we go for PyCharm, why not for some other IDE? It's because in this PyCharm, what happens when you download PyCharm, we have built-in Python packages. So you don't need to go and manually add all the packages. But yeah, obviously, when you'll be using Selenium, you'll be adding the Selenium package. But related to Python, you have most of the packages there. So you can easily import them and use them in your code. So PyCharm is supportable for Python mostly. It's built for the Python platforms. So let's start understanding how to install Python. Now, again, these are the steps to install Python. So I'll go to the official website, choose the version to which to install. There are two editions. One is commodity, that is free. Other one is professional edition. So we'll go with the commodity one because that's easier, that's free, and our work will be done by that version. So select the version and download. So what I'm going to do is I'll just click on this link and this straight away takes me to the download page. Now this is the professional version here, okay? So I scroll down and come to this community version. So I'll download this straight away. And let's wait for this to get downloaded. So it's downloading and it's heavy. Uh, so it's too much to download. So let's wait for this to download and then we will start the installation process. Now that my version is installed, basically it's downloaded, sorry. So I'll straight away go to this version here. I'll double click on this and just follow the steps that you will come across. So here it's trying to set up. Now, if the screen goes blank, then it asks for a permission and I give the permission as yes. Then I do next. Now you see, select the PyCharm Edison version that you want to uninstall. Like before I had a older version, so I'm uninstalling it silently and setting and configuration will not get deleted. Now the new version, basically it's at this location. This is the space required. So I just do next. Now here I'm going to add the desktop. Now the next thing you need to add py. Basically when you create a file, this thing will be there, and also add this bin folder to the path. This is also required. Now the next thing I do next and I do install. So the installations are very easy. So you don't have to worry of this installation thing. Now this is installing. So just you have to select few options and then do click the install button. So basically it will go to the version, it will go to the location that's mentioned in the C drive. So at that location, you can go and find your PyCharm. Now this installation will take some time. That's few minutes of time it will take. Now these steps are already written here. So after downloading, what's the next step? Once the version is done, double click execute your file to install, follow the prompts, choose the installation directory. If you want to install it somewhere other than the default location, you can select the checkbox to create desktop, makes your add folder as project content. These are added .py association with ensure that this is added with PyCharm and then click the install button. So that's the step that you have to perform to do installation. Now, right now, I'll wait till this is installed. Now that installation is done, like here it's asking to reboot now. If you want to reboot it, then you can just do that. I want to do it manually later, so I'll do finish. So once this is done, then that particular PyCharm is installed and it's there in my desktop. So now I'll straight away move to my desktop. And here you see PyCharm Community Edition. So I just click on this. So it's asking for the setup again. Now I have few projects available from beforehand. Now, if you are installing for the first time, you will get certain themes to select. You can select the themes, and then for the first time, you have to create a project. So to create a project, the simplest option is from file, go to new project and click on this new project. And here, just give the project name. Like in our case, we are going to give the project name as QA Selenium Sessions. So this is the project step name that I've given. Now, along with this, the version.exe file will add. You just need to do create. And if you want to open in this window, then just click on this window or click on new window. So new one will open. So I want to open in this window itself. So now you see a project is built here and it will add all the files required by default to this project. Now, once I've created this project, basically the jar files or the files that you are seeing it's added here, that's mostly related to the Python. So we don't have anything related to Selenium here. Whatever you'll find here is all related to Python. So a project is built, the PyCharm is installed. After all of this, in the next video, we'll see how to add the Selenium files or what steps we have to do just to add Selenium to our project. So now we are moving towards the Selenium WebDrivers. We are going to install the Selenium in our projects and we'll see the installation process. So here are the steps that we have to follow. First, open your PyCharm, launch PyCharm, and open your project where you want to use Selenium or to create a new project that we have already done. The next part. This is very simple. Like here, we don't need to go and download something from here and there, or we don't need to add steps manually. Basically, the steps that I have written, same way you have to do. Like in PyCharm, go to systems. Like this is for MacBook. That's for preferences. I'm talking about the Windows. In settings or preferences, Windows, go to the project, your project name, and just look for this Python interpreter. Then you have to install Selenium package. So to install Selenium package, you need to click this plus icon and there you have to search for the available package. That is the Selenium package. And then you'll be adding it. So let's try this step. Then we'll move to the next one. So this is our PyCharm. From here, go straight away to your settings. And here you will find in project section, you'll find this Python interpreter. And then you have to click on this plus icon. Right now you see these things are already installed in your project like pip, setup tools, wheels. You click on this plus sign and just search for Selenium packages or just write Selenium. So when you write Selenium, so here out of this, you have to look for this Selenium. Click on this install package. Now wait till it's installing. Like right now it's installing. So here you have all the things related to the Selenium available. Right now I'm just focused on Selenium. So I'm just taking the Selenium one. Later, if you want to add any more packages, you can come here and just keep adding. Right now it's installing. So basically it will install the package. You will have all the libraries with you. And this will help you to easily use the commands and the classes related to Selenium. So right now it's installing. So we are waiting for the Selenium to install. And once it's done, we'll close it. So let's wait for the installation process to complete. Cool. It's done. It says package Selenium installed successfully. Say close and do OK. So right now, if you'll see, again, if you go to the settings and if you open this Python interpreter, and here you will see like Selenium is also installed to you. Now, these all things are installed to your current package. Now, once this is done, let's come to our project. And here in the project, I'll create my first Python file. But before doing this, let's follow the next step too. So the next step is that you have to install the drivers. Now, talking about the Selenium drivers, basically you need to add the driver, the one that you want to use in your current project. Like if you are using Chrome, so you have to download a driver similar to Google Chrome. Now, if you are using Firefox, so you'll be downloading the driver similar to that. So right now, these are the steps. Basically, you will be these are the links here that when you click on the link straight away, then you will go to that particular uh, website, and from there you can download. Like I have clicked here and you see it says we can download the Chrome driver. So before downloading the Chrome driver, what you have to do is first you need to check the version of your Google Chrome. So right now I go to this help, and again I say about Google Chrome, and from here I see it's updating. So right now it's like the version that's required is 133.0, but when it's update, we need to see what version it comes up with. So basically, whichever version it shows here of your Google Chrome, you will be downloading that version of your Chrome driver. So in my case, it's downloaded. So I'm straight away moving here. I click on this Chrome for testing abilities, and I go and I see the latest version is 1330. So here, come down, and this option, Chrome driver Windows 64. So just you have to copy this link. Once the link is copied, open in a new tab and just paste the link and do enter. So what happens, you see the driver is downloading here. So once the driver is downloaded, just you need to put in some particular location. Usually I keep it inside the program files in C driver. So just put your uh, driver there and then start using it in your project. So now let's move to my project and let's create a file, or basically create one to open website, just to see everything is installed fine or not. So I go to the Python file and I write open website. So when I do this, file is created with open website.py. Now here I'm going to paste my code here. So just the code is very simple. It's like the code, if you see here, I have written driver is equals to webdriver.firefox. Do I have Firefox, but I'll not be using Firefox. In fact, I'll be using .chrome. But before that, you have to import this. So first, we'll be writing these steps like driver is equals to WebDriver. Now here you have to, when you are writing these steps, basically you have to import the Selenium package. So once the step is here, so here when you take your mouse over this WebDriver, it says import this name. So when I click this option, you see I have multiple of options available like Selenium WebDriver.chrome.driver, Chromium.WebDriver. So instead of going for a specific driver, I'll go with this Selenium.WebDriver. When I do this, so it's one line comes here from Selenium import WebDriver. Now, when I say import WebDriver, that means I'm allowed to use any driver I want. Now I can add my own driver, like I've added Chrome. So if I have import the WebDriver thing, then in that case, I can use any driver I want. So just I have to write few lines of code like I have written here. Driver is equals to, like I have initialized the value, driver is equals to webdriver.chrome. So that means this driver is initialized to open the Chrome driver. And then by using the get method, I pass the website link. So these are the two common steps that you'll find in every code that you'll be writing. The first thing is initializing the driver. And the second thing is pass the website link. That's all. So you remember, to pass the website link, we use the get method. And in get method, we pass the website link, whichever website we want to open, and that particular website will open. So it's a very simple code where I'm just trying to see whether the Selenium package is installed properly, everything is working fine or not, and how to import this thing. So when I've written driver is equals to webdriver.chrome, I just import the WebDriver thing. And just keep in mind, when you are importing, you import the WebDriver. Not, you don't import any specific driver, then in that case, you'll be using only that driver. Now it's done. So just let's click this run button here on top and see what happens. So basically this will open your Chrome driver, and in that Chrome driver, you will be opening the website as demo.itlearn360.com. Now, one thing if you have noticed right now is that the website opened and closed by itself. So it's like I have not written anywhere driver.close or anything like that, but the driver closed itself. It didn't hold for a longer. If I run this code again, and if you notice, you'll see the driver is opening, the website is opening, but it's not holding. So I don't get any error. That means everything is working fine, but the driver is not holding. So this problem you will come across, and just to overcome this problem, we'll be writing few steps here. That is, now this is few steps that we'll be adding. That's optional. Basically, it's a Chrome optional thing. So it's very new that in the very first lecture, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, you need to know about this thing because this is an option that comes up in Chrome, where in this options, you need to add one thing, that is this detach. You see detach, comma, true. So when we add this optionals, so this help us to hold this complete process, or like it helps you to hold the driver basically. So it's like once the driver is open, you can hold it easily. Now when it comes to import package, so here you are using the options of Chrome. So you'll take your mouse over here, and again it says import this name. So you will import this WebDriver Chrome.option.options. So when you do this, now here in this 3 lines, what we are doing is we are adding an option where we add this method. In options, we have this method add experimental options that helps you to detach, and in the detach, I have passed it as true. So now here, you don't need to write this driver is equals to webdriver.chrome. Instead, here when you're writing webdriver.chrome, here in the parameters, we are passing option is equals to option. That means I'm passing this option here. Now what this does, when I run this code, you see the website opens and it's holding. It's holding in the sense like till I minimize this or I close this, the website is not closing. So the problem that we was coming across, like it opened and it closed by itself. So that 2 line help you to open the website, but to hold the website or hold the driver for some time, we need to add this option like options is equals to option dot add experimental options where detach, comma, true. So options basically usually when you're working with Chrome or any of these drivers, you have a Chrome options. Basically, this is a class that's defined in Selenium that helps you to add different options. Like right now you are coming across this problem, so we had this option. So along with our Chrome driver, I'm passing these options. In future, maybe when you come across notifications and all, there is an options that will help you to hold the notifications. That's not required, or like personally you don't go and select the options, but still because of that notification, the website will not affect, or your code will not affect, or the flow of process will not affect. So if you want to add any option to your current Chrome drivers, so that you can add by adding methods of options. Like there are many more methods for this kind of scenario. The method required is add experimental options. Here just you need to tell detach and true. That is, this will not detach you, or like this will hold the complete driver. So you have this option you can add. So this is very important thing that you will be using mostly in Selenium to just basically hold different options. So I hope it's clear how the website, how you open a website. This is the first code in Selenium. So we need to add. So usually when you'll be writing codes, these 4 steps will be common. Like only the website link will change. Rest, these steps will be common. So when I'll be doing, I'll be mostly copying it from here, because in every code, we need to write these 4 steps. Only in get method, you need to change the website that you're going to test. That's all, and nothing else to do. So now slowly, we are moving towards the Selenium WebDriver. So in the last video, we just saw the installation of Selenium packages. We did try to run a program where we saw how the Selenium WebDriver is functioning. Now let's talk about some basic things that you will come across in Selenium WebDriver. So in this video, we are going to talk about those basic topics, basically the commands, the methods that we'll be using regularly in Selenium. Now the implementations we'll be seeing in the real-time examples, but right now we'll just see what are those things that you will come across, and just you'll go through the definition of that, what its functioning is. So it's very important to know about these things like elements and the locators. It's the most important and the key part of Selenium. So let's go through it one by one. So first, in Selenium WebDriver, elements and locators are fundamental concepts used to interact with web pages. So these elements and locators are the fundamental concept. Basically, based on this, we interact with the web pages. So it's very important to know about this. So first, let's understand the elements. So in context of web automation, an element refer to an object on a web page. So talking about web automation, elements is basically a reference to an object on a web page. So basically, if you want to connect to any particular section, like if you want to connect to a login button, or if you want to connect to if you want to connect to an um, click, or maybe the input boxes. So just like, for example, if I open this demo IDLAN 360 page, so the every element here, basically this is an element to me, like this all courses, this is one of the buttons. So this is an element, like click this login, this is an element. We treat them as an element. And to maintain this connectivity, basically we just to perform any task in this web page, we need to connect to this element, this login button. We need to connect to this so that we can perform click here. So basically, when I talk about the elements, I mean these buttons, these any sections, anything you find in this page, these are elements to me. So that it means here. So like you see, this could be a button, a text, a link, or image, or any other item that user might interact with. That's what I was trying to show. So in Selenium, you interact with this element to perform actions like clicking, entering text, reading data, and more. So just like what we do in a website testing, or basically what we do when we come across web pages. So whatever we connect to, that's the element here. Now, there are two methods that will help you to connect to these elements. So usually when you write code, you will be using these two methods very often. Like the first one is find element. So find element is a method that will help you to find element in a web page. Now the second one is find elements. So it's very simple. Find element means when you are trying to interact with one element at a time. Find elements means when you are trying to interact with multiple elements at a time. So it's like you'll come across a scenario where you'll be connected to one by one element. That time you'll be using find element. So find element method in Selenium WebDriver is used to locate single web element in a current page. Now it takes locator, that we'll be talking in the next slide, as an argument and return the first web element matching the criteria. So basically based on the locator value or whatever you pass, based on that, it will return you the first element, basically based on those input that you give, it will interact with the first element and it will return you that particular element. If no elements are found, it will throw no such element exception. So that means if you pass information of certain element and that element is not found in that page, so it will throw no such exception. Find elements, just similar to this, find elements method allocates all web elements on the current page that match the specified locator criteria. In returns a list of web elements allowing actions to be performed multiple times at once. If no element match, it returns an empty list. So basically here in this case, it interacts with the page. It gives you a list of elements. In the first case, it gives you one element. In this case, it will give you a list of elements. That's the simple difference between find element and find elements. And the return type here will be no such element. In this case, an empty list. Now, once you are connected to the elements, now the element, you can say the phases of element or the performance of elements are different. Like one element is used for click, another element is used to send the values, another element will be for submit. So basically to send a value to an input box, what I mean here is like this is an input box here. This one, searches. So here to this page, I have to send a value to this particular box, this input box. So to send a value to this input box, you will need a method that's called as send keys. So send keys, remember, is a method that's used to send value to an input box. So what you do manually, it's like in manually, if I search a codes, I'll enter the codes HTML for beginners. So basically it will search me that particular HTML for beginners. Now, same thing when you are doing through automation, to send the same value HTML for beginners, the method required is send keys. So remember, send key is that method that help you to send values to the input box. So send key method is used to stimulate typing to an input field in a web page. It sends a sequence of keyword actions to a web element, typically used for filling out forms or input fields. I hope the definition is very simple to understand what the send key does. So the next one, the click method is used to click on any element that is clickable, such as button, links, or any element that calls for some action on being clicked. So basically, if you want to perform any click on your web page, you will use the click method. Now the submit method. Now usually it's asked in interviews the difference between click and submit method. So it's very simple. The submit method is used to submit a form. This is typically applied to a form element or any element within a form that's when click, submit the form. If the element has no form associated, it throws an element not interactable exception. So submit is used when you are trying to submit some value or credentials. Usually like you enter the username and password. So what happens, this username and password is matched from the database and then it gives you the next step. So usually what you are doing, you are entering the username, you are entering the password, basically you submit the values and then you get the output. And click is like it's random click. You go perform click and that particular output, whichever page requires or whichever destination is required, it opens. So that's the difference between click and submit. So each of these methods plays a crucial role in Selenium WebDrivers for allowing tester to interact with the web pages. So these three methods are most commonly used one that you will come across. You'll come across many more, but these three are the commonly used. So I've mentioned all three of them. Now, when I was talking about the elements or when we are talking about the elements, there we come across a thing that is called as locators. So locators in simple terms, try to understand, locators are basically the one that helps you to identify the elements. So that what it means, like when you're performing a testing through automation, like if you want to perform click on this login button, so you need to connect to this element. You need to pass certain value to, like you need to go and look for the value that will help you to connect to this element. So basically for every element, you'll have a specific locator. So for every element, you're going to have a specific locator. So basically in Selenium, there are multiple locators provided that's commonly used for building a website or building an element in a web page. So the locators that's provided, that's mostly used in the website development. So you need to know what are those locators. So locators are means by which you can identify these elements on a web page to interact with them using Selenium. Since each element on web page has attribute that can uniquely identify them, Selenium provides several methods to locate these elements efficiently. So basically, locators are the one that will help you to identify the elements on a web page. And these are the different locators name like ID, name, class name, tag name, CSS selector, XPath, and LinkText. So you need to know the name of these locators because you will be looking for them when you will be performing testing. So the locators are ID, name, class name, tag name, CSS selector, XPath, and LinkText. So you will come across all of these locators when you will be doing interaction with the elements. Now the definition of these locators is very simple. Like you can go through it, you can read all, but usually you will come across these locators. So in our next videos, we will see, we'll try the examples using each and every locator separately. So you'll get an idea that how we interact with the locators and how we connect to those locators and how we look for that. But the thing is that you need to know what are the different types of locator. So these are them: ID, name, class name, tag name, CSS selector, XPath, and LinkText. These are the locators that you'll be using very often. You need to know the name of these locators, and you'll be using it according to your convenience. So this is about the locators one. So the very first one is locate element by ID. So we'll see how we can locate an element by ID, and we'll see how this ID helps to locate the elements and what exactly the locators is. You'll get familiar to these things now. So before that, this is the definition, basically a few theoretical concepts about ID. So in Selenium, ID locator is one of the most efficient and common way to define an element on web page. So basically, if we talk about ID, most of the elements are defined with ID because ID usually used to be a unique section in a web page. So it's important. Usually we use this ID locators to design the websites, and that's why it becomes important for the automation people too to go through this to use this ID locator. Since ID attribute is intended to be unique within a page, this method is typically very fast and reliable. So using ID to locate element is particularly useful in scenarios where you need a quick and decisive way to access specific part of web page without the risk of selecting multiple elements. So that's the definition of ID. Now talking about the key points, so it's like uniqueness, its efficiency, its reliability, its simplicity, and stability requirement. So basically all the characteristics it has that's required for a particular locator. So these are the definitions, basically these are the key points that talks about the ID locator. You can go through it. Now let's talk about the scenario. So we are trying to test functionality. That means we are trying to open a Google Chrome website. We'll locate the input box on the Google homepage, enter the query, test query, and search the, basically we will search a keyword and then we will enter the search button. So what basically we are doing is, now we will pass the value www.google.com. So when we do this, this is the Google page opening. Here we are going to pass some keyword, like I'll pass a keyword as Selenium. Now usually when you do manual testing or when you manually open a keyword, you press enter button and that particular thing is open. But in this case, we will not press the enter button. Instead, we'll click this Google search button. So when you click this Google search button, so it will give you the expected output. Now the same thing you have to do through automation. So let's do this. Let's get back to our PyCharm here and let's create a file knowing that locate by ID. Now, as usual, I said, I'm going to use the common steps from here itself. So these common steps I'll copy, paste it here. I'm doing the same way, so it will be easy for you to as well understand how what we are doing. And again, import the required sections, like for options, import this name. So the Chrome option, for WebDriver, import the Selenium WebDriver. And in this get method, I'm going to change the website link. So I'll copy this Google Chrome website link from here and paste down here. Done. Now the next step, that's important. So first I will write driver. If you remember in the last video, I talked about find element. Because we are dealing with one element here, so I'll write find element. And after that, we will locate the element. Now this by is a class that helps you to call the locators. So I will call the locators. So first I'll write by. Now you see, when you press Control space, this import option is available. Take this import option. Now dot ID. Now here I'm looking for the ID locator. So I'll go back to this. Now you see how we get the locators is very important to know. So this is the input box, is it? You go to this input box, do right click and do inspect. So how it works, do right click, go to this input box, do right click and do inspect. And then you see the right side of the screen. Here, this is the highlighted section, is it? That means from here, this is the start point, this is the end point for that element. And in between of this element, I'm going to look for the locators. I'll go through each and every line uh, closely, and I'll read every line and I'll look for the locators that comes in my mind. Right now, my focus is on ID locator. So I go to the first line, I see there is nothing related to ID mentioned, nothing in the third line, nothing in the fourth line. But when I come here, I see ID is equals to some value. So now go to that word inside double quotes, double click on that word, copy that word from there, get back here. Now you say by.id, give comma, and in double quotes, paste the value. The value that's here in ID is equals to APJ. So it's like if you will be typing this value, you will find it difficult, or maybe you'll be doing some mistakes. So it's better go to that word, double click on that word, copy it and paste it here. Now the second thing, this is a input box. If you see here, we have to send a value. So once you send a value here, then only you'll be able to do testing. So right now here to send values, I will use the method that is called as send keys. And in this send keys, I'm going to send the value that I'm going to search for. That is like if I'm searching Selenium, so I'll do dot send keys Selenium. So when I do dot send keys Selenium, that means this value should go to this particular input box. Great. So this is the code for this driver.find element by.id and the value. And then in send keys, uh, like here, basically the values, everything you can enter here. Okay. Now when I click the run button, let's see how it's functioning. You see that value Selenium is passed on here. So that means that element passed on from there, it comes here and it looks for the value. It sends the value here and that value is available here. Got it? That's how the ID locator works, and that's how we locate the ID. Now here we'll be using the same scenario, same examples, and I will locate the element with a different locator that's called as name. So first let's talk about this. So in Selenium WebDriver, the name locator is another method to identify HTML elements on web page. In Selenium WebDriver, the name locator is used to find the element based on the name attributes of HTML element. Now, this method is particularly useful for name attributes within form or in general represents elements uniquely with that content. So just like when you go with the ID locator, you inspect, you look for the ID it in the highlighted section. Similarly, here for the same input text, we'll be using the name locator. Now, how's that? We'll see. Now, these are few key points, like basically the purpose, it's like the name locator is primarily used to locate HTML element that have a name attributes, especially common in form where input elements like texts, buttons, and often identified by the name attributes. Now, user scenario, it's most effective scenario where the name locate attributes are unique within a particular section of web page, reliability and flexibility. So if you see the points, basically the key points are quite similar, all having its own advantages. Now let's get back to the scenario. So this is our Google Chrome page, and to this input box, we are trying to send the value. So as usual, again, I'll come to this input box. I will do right click and I will do inspect. Now, when I do this, again, this is the highlighted section. Now in this highlighted section, I have to look, again, I have to go through each and every line and I have to look for the locator that is name. Now the question is that if we have multiple locators in for the same element, then what we'll do? Then in that case, we can go for any one of the locator. Like for the same section, we had the locator ID is equals to this that we used in our last example. Now for the same, we have name is equals to Q. So here we can use either of them. Either we can use the ID one or either we can use the name one. It's our choice. We can go with any one. So in one element, you can have multiple of locators, but you need to decide which locator you are going for. So mostly we go with the ID and name. And if these two are not available, then we go with the XPath. We'll talk in the XPath section. Now here in the project, let's create a new file. Name the file as locate by name. Now, as usual, I'm going to copy these four common steps from here, paste it over here, import them one by one. Now, these steps, if you do again and again, you'll get quite familiar to it, what we are doing. Again, we will import the Chrome options and WebDriver for the driver thing. That is Selenium WebDriver. Now, again, I have passed Google Chrome. The next step, I'll be writing driver dot find elements and by. Now, this by you have to import it. Now, just if you want to import this thing straight away, then press Control Space. You will get the import option. When you press Control Space, it gives you the exact class along with the package. So when you do this, you see I've done this. The package is here. This package line is here, as well as that particular class is also here. Now this time I will locate with name. So I'll take name. I'll give comma, and here I'll pass the value. Again, go to this name locator, and in name the value is equals to Q. So let's copy this Q and paste it here. That's all. Now knowing again that the input text is basically that section is an input text, I will use send keys, and in send keys I'll pass the value that I want to send to that particular field. So it's very simple. It's very similar to the ID one, and it's very simple. So when you start comparing these things, you find it easy to remember. So for ID it was that easy. For name it's very easy. Now again, just do run. So it's like I'm not taking that much time in the section because it's similar thing. Just you need to know how we have to implement them. See now here, the Selenium value comes. So just like we did for the ID, similarly we'll do for the name. Hello everyone, welcome back. Now in this section, we'll talk about locate the elements by class name in Selenium WebDrivers. Now I'd say this class name sections is not used that very often, but this is one of the locators, and this is based basically you say in Selenium WebDriver, the class name locators allows for a section of element based on class attribute. So though the locator name is class name, but this is identified based on the class attribute. And this locator is useful for identifying a group of elements sharing the same styling or behavior characteristics. So now if you talk about this class name, this is used when your group of elements have same styling or behavior. So that those sections we define it inside a class name, basically called as the CSS class. So this is one another option that's available to locate an element, but I would say that's not most commonly used section because it's not necessary for every section will have a class name. And usually it's like for, it's for common, or you can say for a group of elements, you have a common class name. So, but these options are also available in many of the cases. So we should know how to use it. Now, the key points here is it's commonly used to locate elements sharing same styling. So when it's talking about the same styling related to CSS and all, then in that case, we use this class name. Simplicity and readable like others. Limitation, non-unique identifiers like class attributes are not unique to single element on the page. That's the reason we try to avoid it. And dynamic classes. If the application use dynamic classes, that changes based on the state or other condition using class name can lead to unreliable element section. So there are few uh, limitations. Because of that, we avoid using class names regularly. But yeah, in some cases you have these options. Then we go for straight away for the class name. For example, in the current scenario, the one that we have been doing this in Google Chrome, now we have seen how we send the values to this section. Okay. Now, okay, first let me create another file for this. So I'm creating another one for this. naming this time locate by class name. Let me copy the 3 steps because this time I will use the class name for the button. As usual, go import this name, Chrome options. Now this one for WebDrivers, import this name for selenium.webdrivers. Now again import that by to. So this is still the input box that we have done in the last class as well. Now let's move to this Google search button. So I go here, I do right click and I do inspect. Now that the option is similar, like go to that particular section, do right click and do inspect. When you do this, in this highlighted section, you see the very first one is class is equals to some value. Now we use the locator as class name, but the attribute name will be class name. So I write driver dot find element, and here I say by dot class name. So I'll say by dot class name, this one. Take this. And in values, copy this value and paste it over here. Now, last time it was an input text, so I use send keys to send the value. This time it's a clickable item, so I will use the method here as click. So remember, for clickable item, we use the method click. For sending a value, we use send keys. If you remember in my past lecture, I talked about send keys, click, submit, find elements. So there I have described where to use click. Now, as usual, let's run this code and see how it functions. Now it goes to the Google Chrome page. It passes the value now. This thing is done intentionally. Now you see when I'm doing click, it's not doing the changes. Now instead of click, I'm using here submit first. Then we'll talk about this, don't worry. So here I'm using submit. And then I run this code again. Now it worked. Now in some cases, the click will work. In some cases, the submit will work. Now, you remember when I was talking about the differences, there I mentioned that these differences are basically talking about the difference between click and submit. This is the best example to talk about. Usually, if you come across any element in a page, just like you come across any element here, uh, this one, Gmail, it's a clickable item. You go locate the element, click, and you will get the changes because in the attribute, the Gmail link is passed. Now, in Google search, why we use this specific submit button? So if you remember the definition of submit, it says this is used when we submit the form and when we submit the input. Based on that, we get the output. So like here, if you see in this Google search, I will submit certain value. Now that value will be searched from the Google search engine, and then you will get the output. So if you see this scenario, it's like I enter some value that is submit to your Google search option. Basically, that value is passed on, and then we get the expected output. So submit is used in that case when we enter some value, that value is searched, and then we get a particular outcome. It's not that like I click Google search and I get some expected output. That means when I click Google search, some link is passed to this in the code section, and that particular link opens. It's not like that. Here, based on the value that I enter, that value is searched and I'm getting expected output. So this is like submit a input. Based on the input you'll get the output. So in this type of scenario where based on your input the value is compared and then you get the output, in that case we use submit. And in click, it's like we know that this is the expected output, whatever the value you enter, or it doesn't matter you enter any value, just you click on that item and you get the expected output, then in that case we use click button. So this is the slight difference. I wanted to talk about this. That's why I picked this example. And here I talked about this submit and click. I hope this option is this difference is clear, because this is an important section. Maybe this will be asked in interview. So here you can describe this thing saying that, taking this example, that in Google search, what we do, we enter a value that searched somewhere in the search engine and I get output. That's the scenario of submit. And in click, the same page, if you have a Gmail item, you know that expected link will open when you click the Gmail. So just you go and perform click there. So I guess this is one of the locators that's left behind, and this tag name will help you to perform the testing in different way. Like when you are looking for multiple elements, then this tag name is going to help you anyhow. When you are using for multiple elements, like when you have multiple elements to locate, or basically when you have multiple elements uh, to take care of in in one flow. Like you have just like for example, mm, if you see, for example, this is our website demo itlearn 360, and if I ask you to fetch all the links from this page, this is something different. I'm asking you to fetch all the links. That means this itlearn 360, when I click, this is also a link. Free course is also a link. Online classes is also a link. Basically, all the clickable item is link. So that means I'm going to have 100, maybe more than that of links here. So no guesses how many links. So in web page, there can be a lot of links. Now, if I want to fetch all the links and I want to see those links are in working form or not, or just I want to fetch those links and just want to see how many links are there in that page, then in that case, this tag name will help us. So first let's go through the theory part, then we will come to the practical. So here basically in Selenium WebDriver, tag name locator identifies and selects element based on their HTML tag. This is specifically used for selecting group of similar elements. That's what I was talking about, like input boxes of all images. Like web pages, tag itself provides direct and simple way to access the elements. Now the key point, you have the uses, advantages and limitations. Basically it's used in select elements. Advantages, it's like straightforward and we can have multiple elements. We can extract multiple elements from here. Limitation, it's specific. It's less specific than locators like ID or class name. That's obvious. It's not that specific. And the best practice is this. Now let's implement the example. So if you see here, we have multiple of e tags. So remember to fetch the links, or just if you have any clickable link or anything that's in form of link, that will be stored in the tag e tag, that is HTML tag. HTML is basically a tag is the tag where the links are stored. So a tag is a tag in HTML where that holds for the links. Now in href, we have the values. So first what we need here is we need list of all a tags. And once I get the list of all a tags, then I'll be using href to fetch all a tags. Now this code is very interesting. So let me create another saying Python name. Copy the steps, copy the website link, paste it here. Now what my target is, I want all the links available that's with a tag. So what I'll be doing here is I will define a variable as a links, and I'll write driver dot find elements, this time by dot tag name, and the tag name is a. So when I do this, then I'll show you the structure. Then in that case, in all links, I'll have all the e tags available in the web page. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is here we are not going to use find element because we are dealing with more than one element. So we are going to use find elements. I missed that. That's my mistake. By mistake, I forget that. So here we are going to use find elements. So you'll get an idea of how this find elements works, because we are dealing with more than A tags. So all the A tags will be there in A links, and one by one I have to go through all the A tags, and through href I have to take the value. So just for example, just to get the length, I will write all links. So when I do this, basically here it will give me the length of all A tags. So as many as A tags will be, it will count all the A tags and give me the length of that. It says 170. That means I have altogether 170 A tags in a page. That many A tags are there. Now, because I have all the A tags with me, then that means I have to go through each and every A tag and take the value inside it. So how is that possible? So for that, I will be using for loop. So I'll say for link in all links, and using this link, I'll call the method get attribute, and the values are in href. Link.get attributes. So basically, when I say get attributes href, so this will give me the values that will come in href. So I say URL is equals to, and this will help us to print the URL too. Now let's see here, all the URLs will be printed one by one. See, all the URLs it's fetching and printing it one by one. You see? So basically by using tag name, I have identified all the A tags, and once all the A tags are here, using get attribute, the values in href, we are fetching that. So get attribute is basically used to fetch the values inside a attribute. So href is an attribute, it's trying to fetch the values from the attribute. So this is how we can use the tag name. Through tag name, we can identify the elements and then apply code accordingly. So through this, you can see all the links are fetched. This is how we go and we fetch all the links. I hope the tag name concept is clear. I say it's very easy to understand what this locator is about and which locator I'm talking about. So if I name the locator as LinkText, so just by the name, if you see, I mean, I'm talking about some locator that is in form of text as well as link. Now in websites, would have come across a lot of elements that looks like a text to you, but when you take your mouse over it, it is a clickable item. So just to identify those type of unique items, we use link text locator. So in Selenium WebDriver, the link text locator is a method used specifically for identifying links on a page based on their exact visible text. Now, this locator is particularly useful for interaction with hyperlinks in automated test scenario. Now, talking about this line, hyperlinks, I will come back to this. First, let's talk about the definition. In Selenium WebDriver, the link text locator allows you to locate a hyperlink by matching its exact text context. This method is highly effective for selecting links in a web page where the text is distinct and known in advance. Now, just through an example, I'll show you when we open this Google Chrome page. Now, this is a very common one, so I guess you're familiar with it. Now, just if you look to these sections like Gmail, images, if you look through these sections, if you don't take your mouse over it, and if you look from outside, it looks like a text to you. Because usually when you have links, you'll get an idea that, okay, this is a link, you can understand. But if you talk about these elements like Gmail, images, about, and stores, so when you look from here, this looks like a text to you. But when you take your mouse over it and click on it, then it opens a particular link. That's what I was talking about, the hyperlinks. So that means you know that if a section is a clickable, then obviously a link is passed to it. If I do inspect, you will see here its a tag is used, and in href a link is passed. So based on that, it opens the link page. So when you identify these type of elements that is in form of text, now you remember this is in form of text and then clickable. Now Google search is a button, so that's a clickable item. So this one we can't say that it's a link text. So we have to identify, usually you will come across certain text that will be in form of link and as well as text. So just to identify these type of elements, we use LinkText. So now let's try this example. So here let's create a new file and name this file as LinkText. As usual, copy the common steps. Now, when you'll be copying these steps, there's many times you'll get familiar with these steps, and obviously, I can say you'll get it by heart. So just like right now, I'm doing copy, but I suggest if you're doing for the very first time, then try to type it down. I'm just doing copy to save some time. Now, knowing that this Gmail is a text to me, this Gmail is a text to me, okay? So what I'm going to do is here I'll say driver dot find element by dot. Again, when you're writing by, do control space. So this will take the package along with it and link text. Now this is link text, and just here in link text, you don't need to inspect anything. You don't need to inspect the element, or you don't need to do anything related to that. Just you have to write the exact text name. The exact text name means G in capital MAIL, the exact text name. Now in this page, it will go to that particular text. It will go to the first time when that text comes, it will go to that particular text. It will identify that text, and just to see that it's working fine, I will apply click here. So that means it will identify that particular text based on link text. So that text will be identified in form of link text, and that's a Gmail text. So if it's identified, then obviously the click will be performed. If it's not identifying, then the click will not be performed. So let's run this. It opens. The problem here is, yeah. So it opens the Google Chrome. You see, it clicks on Gmail. That means it identified that Gmail text and it went and clicked on that. So I hope this link text thing is clear. So you will come across a lot of these link text items in a website. So just you have to do, it's just like another locator. Just you have to know here is we don't need to inspect and copy any value. Straight away we have to pass the text, and accordingly it will identify that particular text. That's all about the link text. Now, usually we are dependent on the locators like ID, name, and class names. Basically, those are certain names provided to a particular section. But talking about this XPath, this is something different. The XPath is basically, it's used in that scenario where you don't have any locator available. Like if in any section you find that you don't have any locators available, you don't have any options of the locators available, there you can go for XPath. First, understand about the XPath, and I'll show you how it uses. It's very simple. The most simplest and the easiest you'll find. So XPath or XML path language in syntax is used in Selenium WebDriver to find an element on web page using an XML path expression. So basically the expression is in form of XML, like what it retrieve, or the XPath that retrieves is in form of XML. It allows for the selection of nodes in XML documents, which translates well to navigate the structure of HTML page. So basically, it's used to navigate the elements, and basically, if it's written in like the XPath that is fetched is not in that readable form that you will understand, but it's mostly it's in XML format. It's written. Now this is these are the key points basically that talks about the XPath. Now you can say it's like it's the best practice and it's very versatile. Now when you will be using it, you'll find it very easy, I tell you. Now again, I'm going to use the same example here. Now you'd be thinking why I'm using the same example for all. Just to give you an idea because you are new to this. So at least you'll get an idea that for one simple scenario, we have used all the XPath. So that means if you know XPath, if you have used all the locators, so that means if you know about the locators, you can easily use them. So it's nothing like that you need to know about all the locators and all. It's like, okay, fine. If you are using any one of the, so there are different options for a single section, like for a one text or for one input box, you have multiple options available. And the same thing we can locate by using different locators. That's why I'm applying in one instead of applying in all different locators. So here I go inspect. Now, usually I have all the locators available. I've tried CSS selectors and all, but now here I'll try for the XPath. So just this is to give you an idea of all the locators. Like you have all the locators. Basically, you are familiar with all the locators, but it's good that you get an idea of all the locators in real time. Now here, instead of this, I'll be using XPath. Now this is my section where I'm using for, or this is the section for that input text. So what I do here is I do right click, straight away go to this copy. This is the easiest way. You can write the XPath in multiple ways. Now this is the easiest way. Go to that section, right click, go to copy, and from there straight away copy XPath. Go here, do right click, go to copy, and straight away go to copy XPath. That's all. Just do this, and the value where usually used to copy the values and paste here, just paste that XPath. Done. The XPath is done. The value of XPath is here. And now, just if you run this code, you will see the value is passed on there. This simple it is. I'll tell you, there are multiple ways of writing the XPath. So you can write the XPath manually. You have multiple ways of writing it. So don't be dependent on that. This is only the one way of doing, but the one that I have suggested, this is the most simplest way you can get the XPath. So I have just provided you the simplest way of getting an XPath, that is this, but there are multiple ways of having the XPath. So you can try all those ways. So this is about the XPath, and it is a very small section. So we didn't go that deep. We didn't wrote the code again and again. It's like just have changed the code here. And I guess you have got an idea of the XPath, how it looks like and how it works. Now, in this video, we'll see the first example where we'll be using locators separately in one example. So basically here, we are going to talk about how to send data to a form. Now, like here, basically we'll be using this website. So let me go straight away to this website. And in this website, basically, we will try to send value to these fields: name, email, website, comment. So only to these four sections we are going to pass value here. Later in the example, we will talk about the radio buttons, the checkbox and all. So right now, just we'll focus on these four sections, and we are going to send values to this. So this is the first example where we'll be implementing the values, and basically we'll be going through the form section here. So, so here, now we'll write code for this. So this is the scenario. We have to launch the browser, then we have to navigate to the website, send values to the name, email, website, comment field, and at last we need to click on this send button. So this is the send button that we have to click on at last. So these sections will cover later. Right now, just I'm focusing on this simple example. So straight away, let's go to our PyCharm and let's create a new file and name this file as fill form. Now, as usual, we are going to copy the steps from here and paste it here. And just here, I'll change the website link from this to this. Copied. And we'll paste down here. Done. Now, first go to the very first field. The field is the very first field is here, the name field. So go to this name field, inspect, and here I do inspect. Now I look for the locator. So if you see closely here, we have only one locator, that is name. So we'll take that name locator here. So let's go back here and again start writing. Driver dot find elements again by dot name, and in this name field we are going to copy the value, that is this value. Copy this and let's paste it here. Now, knowing that this is a input box, so here we are going to send the values. So because it's a input box, so we'll use send, and we'll send the value, the name as IT learn. Great. Similarly, we'll write the next step. Again, driver dot find element, and again by. Now, go inspect the second section. So do right click here, go to inspect, and here I see two options, either ID or name. So here I can go with any one of this. I can go with ID or name. So I will prefer going with name. So when you have multiple options for the same field, you can select any one locator from here. Now you are quite familiar with the locators because you have used it very regularly. Now here dot name again, by dot name, and again the next locator here will be email. So you see, I just copy the values and paste it here. Now send a proper email like I'm sending at the rate gmail.com. Now then again the next part, driver dot find elements, this time by dot. Now again I have to look for the locator for the third section. So every time I have to come, I have to inspect and again see the highlighted section here. Now this time the locator value is website. Copy. So by dot name, again in single quotes, paste the value website, use dot send keys, and pass the website link. So I'll pass itlearn360.com. In fact, www.itlearn360.com. Now here I pass the website. Now let's get to the next field, that is comment. We'll inspect this too. And again, I'll see for the locators here. Again, the locator is name. So coincidentally, the locators here is mostly the name locator. And copy the name value, that is comment, paste it here. Again, do dot send keys. And in this, send the value as the comment. I'm passing a comment as e-learning website. Great. So now once all this is done, at last here we have the send button. So this time I will go inspect the send button. And again, I have the locator here as name. So see, when you have locators available very easily, then you can take them straight away and just use them accordingly. So here, again, the locator available is name. So I'll take the name value from here, pass it down here, and I'll say dot. Now here, because it's a button and that send is a button here, so I'm going to use here as click. Now, not submit because these values I'm going to feed to particular sections. So we will use the method here as click. Okay. Now let's run this. So when we run this, the Chrome driver opens and you see the values are passed, name, email, website, and at last you see all these values are feeded here, name, email, website, comment. So very simple. This is how we send values to the form. So you will have these type of scenarios, though it looks very simple, but in real time, you're going to have these type of situations as well. Now the radio buttons, basically, let's see what these radio buttons are. So this is a section that you will usually come across when you are automating a form. So these are the radio buttons, like we click on this. Again, just when we click, it's like one value is selected at a time. Like first I click on female, so this is selected. If I go to male, then that's the last selected value. And if I move to others, then it's the last one. So basically one value at a time is selected and the radio buttons looks like this. Now with these radio buttons, if you talk about these radio buttons, so it's basically handling radio button in Selenium WebDriver is a straightforward process that involves locating the radio button elements and performing actions such as clicking to select the desired options. Now, below is the detailed explanation of to how to interact with the radio button using Selenium WebDrivers. So radio buttons are used in web form to present a list of options for which the users can select only one HTML. And these are typically defined with input tag and the type is radio. So in code, if you'll see, the type of this button is radio. So if you see the type, it's radio. Now, how to automate these buttons. So we'll see this example here itself. So we will write this and also we will see one method here that's used is selected. So in radio buttons, if you'll see, we use this find element to find the elements and click to perform click. Is selected is a method that returns the output in form of true and false. So basically in this radio buttons, it's returning the value in form of true and false means that if the button is selected, it will return the value true or else it will return the value as false. That's how it goes. So let's try this. So again, let's go to our PyCharm and let's create a new file and name that file as radio button. And I will take the old one. It's in fact already the same thing. So either you can do in the same program or you can create a new one. So here I go, I paste these lines and now I go to this section, do right click here and straight away do inspect. Now, one thing that you notice here is it says name is equals to gender. Again, name is equals to gender. It's similar for male. It's similar for others too. Now, this name locator is common in all three cases. Now here, we can't use this name locator because it's quite common. It's same in all the three scenarios. It's same in the first one. It's same in the second one. It's same in the third one too. So in this type of situations, we'll go for the XPath. And you know how to take the XPath? Very simple. Just do right click, go to copy and do copy XPath and that particular section XPath will be taken. So let me write this driver dot find element. Again, when you're using by, make sure you have this package and XPath. I'll take XPath and in this XPath, I will paste the value that is this. Now, here you can do dot click and just check that radio button is clickable or not. Or the other way is you can store this value in one of the elements. So I'm going to create a reference for this saying as radio button. Now, why I'm creating a reference? Because I'm going to use this for is selected method too. So now I will do radio button dot click here. And below I'm going to write a if condition saying that if radio button dot is selected. So if it's selected, then in that case, let's print an output saying the test passed, or else print saying that the test failed. So if this condition returns true, then the output will be that the test passed. If not, then the output will be failed. So is selected means it's selecting the right element. We have to check that. So now let's run this. It goes here, it's select female, and it says the test passed. That means is selected. That means this method is selected, returns the output as true. And because it's this thing has returned the output as true, so the if condition executes here. So this is how the radio button works, and this is the scenario where we use is selected method. So is selected is basically used to check whether a particular section is selected or not. And if it's selected, that means it will return true. If it's not selected, it will return false. So this is how it works, and this is the scenario where we use is selected method too. Now, checkboxes is quite similar to the radio button. Just the only difference between the checkboxes and radio button is in radio button, we select one value at a time. In checkbox, we are selecting multiple values. It's like we can select all the sections in one shot in the checkboxes. Now, how's that? So just we'll talk about the checkboxes, what it is. So interacting with checkboxes in Selenium WebDriver is quite similar to handling the radio button, but it's a small difference. Primarily, user can select multiple checkbox, unlike the radio buttons. So there's a slight difference here between the checkbox and the radio button. Now, in checkbox allows user to make multiple selections from a set of options. Each checkbox in HTML is defined with an input tag, and the type here is checkbox. So the type here in case of checkbox is the checkbox is that's the type here. Now, let's try this through an example. Now we will take the same example. In this form, we have everything. Basically, we have the checkboxes, we have the radio buttons, we have the drop down. So we'll be referring to one form for all. Now here, you see, this is the checkbox option. So in checkbox, if we do select manually, you see all the options are selected. And when we click the send button, you see all the values are passed on. So checkbox functions this way. It's like all the values are selected in case of checkboxes. Now let's write this in code. So let's create again a new file. Now naming it as checkbox. And as usual, let me copy the common steps. That is this. Let's copy and paste it here. Fine. Now, get back to the checkbox, do right click and go to inspect. Now this section is quite easy by now. So for bike, its name is equals to bike. For car, name is equals to car. For boat, the name is equals to boat. And for horse, it's horse. So I do driver dot find element, taking that by dot name, and that's common everywhere. Just the value will change. First one will be for bike. And if we perform click here, see how easy things are. Now from here, you will look like this is just another, just do the same thing that you are doing every day. It's like just inspect the element, take the values and perform click. That's what you are doing. So I don't think these steps needs to be explained. It's that simple. Now still, I'm writing this code just to put a point here in checkbox. Now I'm writing the complete code here. Now in place of car, this time boat. And for this horse, this is. And the last one is for send keys. So the send keys already I have written the code here. So I'm taking it from here. Now, I guess you are familiar with these things, what I'm doing from where I'm taking the steps, all you are familiar with. Now, here, In this, it's very simple. Just I have located the elements, I performed click, and last we do the submit button. And now when I run the code, you see the values will be selected. So you see the page opens, and if you check here, bike, boat, horse is here. Why not car? That is another question that you will have in mind, that bike is here, boat is here, horse is here. What about the car? So now I'll tell you what this means. If you see when I refresh this page, by default, you see this car option is selected. And if you go and click this option manually, what happens? The one that is selected, that gets unselected. Basically, that one is unclicked. So remember, if in case of checkboxes, if any checkbox is clicked by default, then you don't need to perform click on that section again. So if you do click on that section again, that section will not be selected. So that's the reason here you see I have performed click on this car too. So that's why the car value was not passed. Now, if I remove this code from here and then run the same code in the output, you will see all the three options: bike, car, boat, horse passing. That was a small thing that I wanted to point out for checkbox. Rest, everything is similar the way you have done in radio buttons and other examples. I guess you know about the dropdown, what exactly the dropdown is and how it looks like. If not, then I'll show you once. This is basically the dropdowns. Now the dropdowns are of two types. This here, we select one values at a time. That means I just click on the option and that option is visible. Now the other type of dropdown is where I can select multiple values, and basically multiple values are passing in this dropdown. Okay. So usually we have these two types of dropdowns. One where you can take one value at a time, and the other one where you can pass multiple values. Now, both the dropdown functions in the similar way. Just I'm showing you the varieties of dropdown. So what we do in dropdown manually is we select a value, and that particular value is visible in the screen. So it's like I click, select the text, and that text is visible. Now let's understand the dropdown scenario, how it looks like. So handling dropdown in Selenium WebDriver involves interacting with the select element and the child options element. Selenium provides a helpful select class located in Selenium WebDriver.support. Basically, in that package, the select class is available, and Selenium provides you that select class. Now, drop-down menus are often defined in HTML using select tag with multiple option tags and each possible selections. So the select class in Selenium can be used to handle these elements based on text, indexes, and value. Now, these are the few methods that interact with dropdown. First is the select class that helps you to perform dropdown. Second, there are three different methods, like one is select by value, another one is select by index, and the last one is select by visibility text. So these three options, basically, if you want to select the items from the dropdown, you can select using these three options. First by value, second based on index, and the next one on text. And deselect means deselect all the options. That's only application for multiple select dropdowns. Like when you have multiple options to select from the dropdown, in that case, this deselecting works. So this is a typical dropdown situation where you can use these methods. Just you need to remember different types of methods available. And these methods basically, you can say these methods, it's not necessary to use all the methods, but yeah, you'll be using methods based on the requirement type. Now for this scenario, let's write code. You'll get better understanding. So as usual, again, I'm creating a new Python file, name it as Dropdown. And here, as usual, I take the common step. Now, again, I'm saying these steps, if you're a fresher, you need to type these things. It would be better. You will get more familiar to this. Now, first, this dropdown is in which section? In the country section, is it? So what you have to do is, first you have to locate this country thing. So when I do inspect, you see I'm not getting the expected output. That means I'm not getting the inspect section of the country. So in case where you do inspect and you don't get the expected highlighted section, then in that case, you take this arrow button. You see this arrow button on top? Take this, click on this arrow button and wait till the color changes. Just drag that arrow and bring it to the section where you want to perform. Okay. Now, when I do this, you see this is the select tag and here is name is equals to country. Now here, these are the values, these are the options available, and these are the text that you will be doing, selecting from the drop downs. So first I will locate this. So I'll write driver dot find element and sorry, I'll do by dot name. Sorry, by dot name. And I'll take the value here. Name is equals to country. That is inside the select tag. I'll take this, pass it here. Cool. Now this thing I'm going to store in a reference. Now this country is a reference here. So I'm going to store it here. Now, once this is done, I'll create a reference of the select class to select country. Now, here, you use the class as select. So select is the class that I was talking about, not this one, tkinter.text. In fact, this one, Selenium WebDriver support.select. You have to take this select here, and in this select, you will pass the country. Now, this is the reference. So basically, I'm using the select class to perform dropdown, and to which section I'm performing the dropdown? To the country section. Fine. Now, using select country, I'll call the method select by visibility text. Now I have all three options available. I'm taking select by visibility text, get back to my code and copy a text. Now you see I'm copying a text from here. So I copy the text as France and paste it over here. So when I paste this value France, that means it's going to select the France value. Now same thing if I would be doing by select by value, then in that case, I would take the value here. Now you see in value, the France is written in caps, here it's written in smaller. So you have to keep in mind that when you are using select by visibility text, you have to take the text from here. And when you are talking about the value, that should be from here. Cool. Now done. Let's run this and see. See, the France value is there and it's visible. So it's had selected the France value. Now, similarly for the next section, again, you see the next one is here is for skills. So again, the same process. So for skills, the name is equals to skills. Again, you have values as well as this text too. So now what I'm going to do, first I will locate the skill section. So I will do driver dot find element again by dot name. Now in name, comma, and here I'll pass the value that is skills. Copy, paste it. Now, basically here, again, I will use select. I'll again define a reference and I'm going to use again the select class. And this time I'll pass skill here. Cool. Now using this time I will use select by value. So when I use select by value, I'll go to this value. I will click on the value inside it, copy, paste it. Now in this drop down, I can select multiple values or I can pass multiple values. In the first drop down, we are not allowed to pass multiple values. Now copy, paste it. Let's run this code and see how it's working. So it takes QA and programming both here. So it's click on both. So both the options are here, like select by visibility text, select by visibility, select by value. Both the options will be using, and this is how we use both the options. This is how we handle the drop downs in real time situations. This is how the drop downs is controlled using the select class in case of Selenium. That's all about the drop downs. I hope it's clear. So alert in Selenium WebDriver is basically one of the most important section, and you will come across this in most of the cases. So talking about alerts, first let's understand how this alert looks like. Then we will come back to the different types of alert. Now in this page itself, you see this is the alert section. So when I click on this button, an alert box is visible. Now, one thing if you noticed, once you are into this alert box or once this alert box is there on the screen, the background of the website is not working. That means the website is not in working stage. The alert is there. So first you have to handle this alert and then you can move back to the website. So that's the slight difference here. In case of alert, when you come across an alert, you need to compulsory handle it. So once where your access was in the website, that access is moved to the alert. So once you have handled the alert, then again you are able to use the website back. So this is how the alert is. Now talking about alert, there are different types of alert. First, let's understand what is alert. So handling alert in Selenium WebDriver is crucial for automation testing scenario where JavaScript's alert confirmation or prompt appears on the page. Selenium provides a straightforward way to interact with the pop-up boxes, which is essential for fully testing the user's interface to the web application. So we have straight away, like we have to switch our access to the alert box, and straight away we can accept or cancel the alert. Now, there are three different types of alert. The first one is alert box, where you have a simple button that is OK. In confirmation box, you have two options, either OK or cancel. And the third one is prompt, where you can send some values to the alert box, and that value will be printed. So these are the three different types of alerts that you may come across, and we will try all the three different types in the current example. So let's go for it. As usual, go to your PyCharm, create a alert file, and as usual, these steps common, copy, pasted, done by me. Now, the very first thing I need to do is I need to locate this alert. So first, now again, before like this is where I inspect this alert, and then I'll perform click here. So I write driver dot find elements, and again by dot name, I guess, is it? Yeah, no, sorry, it's ID. And the value that I will pass over here is alert. Done. And I will do dot click. So once I do this, the alert box is visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a reference as alert1 is equals to, I need to switch my access from driver dot switch to alert. Now once I use switch to alert, that means my access will switch from my current screen to the alert screen. So when I click on this alert me, now my access is here and I have only one prompt. Or you say we have only one option, that is okay. So I'll say alert1 dot accept. So when you are trying to accept alert, you will use accept method. So when I run this, you see this opens and it says you accepted the alert. Now once this is done, now again that means I'm back to my website. So again what I have to do, I'll be like for this scenario, I will locate the second element that is confirm me, and this is the code for the confirm me. So the same thing, just I will change the value here from alert to confirm. Now the second one is alert to is equals to driver dot switch to dot alert. Now here in this case, I have two options. Either I can select the alert or I can cancel the alert. So the method that I will be using here is dismiss. So to cancel the alert, the method you will be using is dismiss. So now let's run this and see. So it goes here and you pressed cancel. Now you will see the execution is very fast. So that's the problem with Selenium. The execution in Selenium is always very fast. The minimum time given by the Selenium to execute it 0 to 3 seconds. That's the minimum timing provided. Okay, that's for the alert. Now we'll come for the third alert. Now when we come to the third alert, then again we'll inspect the third one. Now the value here is prompt. So the value I'll pass here. So I'll just take the, okay, let me copy this. Now, one thing that you have noticed, you see every time I have to switch my access to the alert. If you're not switching your access to the alert, then you will not be able to uh, locate, or basically you'll not be able to uh, again come back to the alert thing. So you have to switch your access every time. The third time it's alert 3 driver dot switch to dot alert. And in alert 3, the method. Now here, if you see this prompt alert, you have a section where you enter a value. Like if I enter the value IT learn and I press OK, so it says, hello IT learn, how are you today? So in the third case, I will use send keys, pass the value IT learn, and then I will accept the alert. Save and run this now. So here it says, hello IT learn, how are you today? So if you want to send a value, you'll be using send keys using the alert reference that you have created. And then you will either accept or cancel the alert. That's quite common. So accept and cancel is quite common, but you have to use send keys to send values and accept to accept it. That's how we handle the alerts in Selenium. So it's very simple. Just you have to know the sequence that if you want to accept, you have to use the accept method. If you want to cancel, you have to use the cancel method. And if in case you want to send a value to the alert box, then in that case, you will be using the send keys, and through the send keys, the values will be passed. So I hope the concept is clear. This is how we handle the alerts in Selenium. So I guess this form section is now completed. Now you'll not be seeing this form very regularly. So if we have covered everything in this form, and these are the basic things that you come across a form when you handle a form, you come across them. So these are the few basic things that you'll be coming across. Now, one more step I would like to add here is like if you open this alert and you have certain text inside it, is it? So if you want to fetch this text, or in any case, like in a website, if you want to fetch a text, so there is like here you see once I've switched to the alert, what I want to do is I want to print the text value saying the text from alert box and I want to print it. So I will use this alert one dot text. So text is a method now in the real-time website as well as when you want to fetch a text from an alert box. So remember, text is a method that will help you to get the text from the alert box or from the pages in the web page. So text is basically now you see when I run this code, so it will fetch the text and print in your console window that is here in your terminal basically. So if you focus in your terminal, you see the text is here, the text from alert, how are you? So the complete text is fetched from there. So if in case you want to fetch a text from a alert box or from your web page, you will use the text method. So basically when you use text, this will give you the text from that section. This was one thing that I wanted to add to the complete thing. So remember in future, and always the text value that you fetch is fetched in form of string. Remember that. So you can fetch the text value easily and that value will be in form of string. So that's all about the alerts. And I guess everything is covered in this form section. Now in next section, we'll talk about different options, that is actions and all. Driver. Now this is one of the interesting section. So we don't have much in theory in this section. It's like more of practical thing, but still I will tell you what exactly we are doing. It's navigating through multiple windows or tab in a browser session with Selenium WebDriver involves a few important steps to effectively switch between controls between different windows. So in this basically what we'll be doing is we'll be switching our access like from the Google Chrome. I'll move to the demo ITLAN 360 and I'll do certain tasks in Google Chrome. I'll do certain tasks in ITLAN 360. So that will be interesting. Now these are the steps to navigate multiple windows in Selenium. So it's like open the main window, trigger the new window or tab, handle window switches, interact with new window, close or switch back. So these steps basically will be performing in this multiple window scenario. It's like just opening a new window, triggering a new window, handling the window switch, and again at last we'll try to close or switch back. So basically we are going through these two websites. Like I'll first open the Google Chrome, then I will switch to this demo IDLAN 360, and then we'll perform task in both the screens accordingly. So let's straight away switch to this section. And yeah, so first let's create a Python file. Name is at navigate window. Sorry, navigate window. So as usual, the first few steps, let's keep it common. And here first I'll put now you can put any screen. My choice is like I want to go with the Google Chrome. So let's do this. Pass on here. So obviously this will open the Google Chrome. Now I have to switch my access. So to switch, I'll write driver dot switch to dot till switch to it's similar. Every time now this will keep changing. New window. So when I say new window, then that means it will switch to a new window, and there I will open using the get method the next website, sorry, the next website link, that is this one. Great. Now let's run this and just see how it's functioning. Is it switching from one window to another? Great. Right now in Google Chrome, and from there, yes, switch to demo IDLAN 360. That's great. So this is working. Now, once this is working, let's do something new. It's like, let's see how many tabs are open. So I'll just write a variable as number tab is equals to, and I'll say length driver. Now, these are very small things, but This may be asked in interview. These things can be asked in interviews. So now here I say I give length. To get the length, I just write print and I pass this number tab, save it, run this. So this will give you the number of tabs that's open here in the print statement. So driver.window handles is basically used to handle handle the number of windows open in your tab. And just by using length, I'm getting the tabs here. Basically here one extra tab is opening this data tab. So it's giving you 3 in count. So this is how we are getting the count of number of tabs opened. Now what next? I want a specific tab value. So I have created a variable as tab value. And in the tab value, I'll say driver dot window handles. And I'll say print the tab value. Now I'm not saying what we are doing here. When you run, you'll get an idea. So let's wait here. So as many tabs are open, it gives you the value of each and every tab. And this is how the references comes out. So this is how you will get the values. So this is for the first tab, this is for the second one, and this is for the third one. So this is giving you the tab value. So just by using driver.windows handle, basically it gives you number of values. And when I do length, driver.windows handle, so it counts the number of values that's fetched and it accordingly gives you the length. Now, similarly, if you want to get the output of the current tab, so again, I'll define a variable as current tab, and then I'll do driver dot window handle. It's window handle, or it's current window handle. Yeah, current window handle. So this will take me to the current tab. So if I print the current tab, so the tab that will be opened the last time, it will give you that too. So now again, when I run this, so first go again, demo ITLAN 360 is the last one there. So I have the list of tabs too. So from there, I can figure it out based on the reference number. So this is the third reference number. And you see when I'm printing the current tab, I'm getting the third reference number. Good till here. So it's like how we are switching to the tabs, how you can get the current tab, how you can get the list of the tabs, everything is good. But our main goal is the switch part. So our main goal is the switch part. So basically what I want is, now here the task begins. I want that in this page, let's do something. It's like in this page, let me click on this get started button, okay? So I'll take the XPath of this and I'll write code for this. So I go here, I say driver dot find elements and I say by dot XPath and I paste the XPath value. And just I do click. So that means once this tab is open, the current tab, that is our demo ITLAN 6 tab, when that's open, it will click on that particular item. Fine. But what about the Google one? If I want to perform something in the Google one, I need to switch my access. So in this section of code, I'm trying to do the switch problem. So first I'm defining a variable as first tab is equals to now. In this driver.window handles where you have written in tab value, basically, if I pass the index 0, so it's obvious, like you have seen in this tab value, we have the list of the references. So if I say 0, that means it's taking me to the first reference. Now I'll write a if condition here. And in this if condition, I'm going to write if my current tab is not equals to, if it's not equals to my first tab, then in that case, what do you have to do? You have to switch me to the first tab. So you say switch to dot window, and there you pass what? The first tab. So from here, it will switch you to the first tab. So now once you are switched back to the first tab, that is Google Chrome, I would like to click on this Gmail. So I'll write code for this too, driver.browser, sorry, driver.find element, and I say by dot link text. And just I pass the text as Gmail and I do click. Fine. So I've done a lot of things here, like I've just pressed the tabs, everything. So if you go part by part, too many things are done here. So you can go slowly and understand one by one all, but you should go in a sequence so that you will get the connectivity of what's happening. So now Google opens, demo ID learn opens, and here in demo ID learn, I have clicked on the get started button. So based on that, this goes. Now it's going back to, oh, I said tab 0, so it takes you to the wrong place. So we just have to change from tab 0 to tab 1. I guess it will work now. Now because I have three different, this one opens the second, the Google Chrome. So I guess that's the problem. Now it will click on get started, go back to Google Chrome, click on Gmail, done. So this is the simplest way to switch tabs and perform tasks in all different tabs, switching from one tab to another. So multiply, like here, I'm controlling multiple tabs at the same time and performing tests in both the tabs. So this is how you can switch tabs from one state, from one window to another. This is how we do navigate. That's all. Now this frame is basically a section in HTML. So you will come across these frames when you'll be doing the drag and drop thing. And it's very important to know about the frames because once you are familiar with it, then you can use it in real-time solutions as well. So basically, this nested frame in Selenium driver is one that's used basically when we have multiple frames in the same website, how to handle them. First, I'll show you what exactly the frame is like. So first, if you see here, this is the frame. You see here one section that's basically highlighted, the second section, the third section, the fourth section. So basically we have four different, so this website is divided in four frames: first, second, third, and fourth. So when it comes to frame, it's basically a part of website, but you can say a portion of it is designed in form of frame. So these are the four sections. Now, if you want to work on these sections, so specifically you have to go to this frame section and then you perform task inside it, come out of this frame section and then perform task in the main website. So here only you have frames, but usually in the websites you will have frames as well as the websites too. So basically you need to move to the frame sections and then you need to perform tasks there. Again, if you want to perform something on the website, again switch back to that section, to the website part, do there. Again, if you want to switch to the frame, you have to move to the frame section. So basically that's what nested frame is here, what we are talking about. So we need to see how we will handle these nested frames. So handling nested frames in Selenium WebDrivers can be somewhat complex because it requires you to switch context from main page to the file frame and then in any subsequent nested iframe. So an iframe within another iframe is complex web application, and Selenium allows you to handle by switching focus sequentially from main document to the first frame and then to the nested iframe before you interact with the elements inside it. So right now you have just frames, but inside the frames you'll be having elements as well. So you'll see this in the drag and drop too. So it's better you get familiar with this frame thing beforehand. Now these are the steps basically to handle the frames. Open the main window, switch to the first iframe, switch to the nested iframe, interact with the elements, switch back to the main document, and again get back to the frame. So that's how we'll be switching. Now, let's try this example so we'll get a better idea how this frame is working. So let's get back to our PyCharm, and here, let me create a new file saying nested iframe. Now let me copy these common steps and let's change the website link here to take the website link from here, paste it over here. Cool. Now what? Once the website opens, I go to this frame, the very first frame that is left. So I inspect this. Now, the best way to identify a frame is you will have this tag frame mentioned. So if you see here tag, it mentioned frame left. Again, it's mentioned frame middle. Again, right. If you come down, it's bottom. So basically the locator is here and the values are here and every section is quite separately defined here. So let's start with the first one. Right now you are in the website. So you're in the website right now. If you see when I open the website, I'm the website. So from here, I have to switch my access to the frame. So to switch the access to the frame, I'll write driver dot switch to method. Switch to method is to switch, and frame method is basically where we pass the frame value. So right now, either I'll be passing indexes here if required, or I will pass the locator value of that particular frame because I want to get into this frame. So this name frame point. So what I'm going to do is frame top. So I'll just copy the value here. No need to define the locator because just through this name, it will identify to which frame section it has to go. So it comes to frame top. So right now in the frame top, you are in the first frame. So from the first frame, you want to switch to next frame. So again, you write driver dot switch to dot frame. And then right now I want to switch to the middle frame. So I'll take this middle frame value from here. Cool. And paste it over here. Great. Now just to check that I'm in the right frame, because if nothing is here to show, so you'll not be able to understand that really we are moving from one frame to another. So what I'm going to do is I will try to get this text middle from here. So let me elaborate this part. Go to the documentation section, open this documentation and the HTML, and this is the body part. So here we have ID is equals to context and the value what I want from here is middle. So I'll write code to get the text from here. So I write content is equals to driver dot find elements and I say by dot I'm using ID here. So I'll say ID and in ID I'll pass the value as so I've no here ID is equals to content. Copy, paste it here. I forgot to give comma in between. Cool. And when I use text, so this will give me the text, that middle text. So let me print it down here, saying, sorry, print here in double quotes saying content middle frame. And just print this content, that's all. So if it's in middle frame, it will give me the output as middle. And now if I want to move to the next one, that is from middle, I want to move to the bottom, I guess. Okay. So now what I have to do is first I have to switch my access to default content. Default content. That means it will go to the default one. That means the first one, the frame top. So it will go to the default content, or you can say it when I'm saying default content, that means it will go to the website. And from there now you can switch driver dot switch to dot frame. And this time I'm trying to switch to the bottom part, this one. So what is that for bottom? It's frame bottom. Copy, paste it over here. Great. Now again, to identify that I'm in the right place, I'll just say content bottom. I'll write code for that too. Driver dot find element. Now what's the value here? Let me check. So here. Oh, we have nothing as locator. So I'm going to use tag name here. By dot tag name. And what's the tag name here is? I guess it's body. Yep, body. And then I will use text. So this will give me the text value. As usual, I'll write the print here and I'll say content in bottom and content bottom. Now let me run this code. If all the contents print, practically if you get the content, that means it's switching to the frames, or else there is some problem. So right now here you will not be able to see anything. Now you see content in middle frame, that is middle, I get the word middle. Content in bottom frame, I get the word bottom. So basically this is what we are doing. We are switching from one frame to another, and again we are going to the default content, and again we switch to the frame where we are targeting. So this is how the nested iframe basically works, and this is how we switch the contents. That's all about the nested iframe. Now we'll be doing an example, or maybe in real time in drag and drop, I'll be using these frames. So you'll get to know more about it and you'll find it easy there. This is called like right click. So if you talk about the right click, you will notice that this right click can only be done through mouse or keyboard. So basically when you perform these actions, so you need to know how to handle them. So basically, these are the actions that you will come across in a website, and you need to know how to handle those or how to automate those actions. So in Selenium WebDriver, performing a right click, also known as context click, is achieved through the use of action chains class. So just like in Dropdown, we used a class as select. Here in this case, in actions, we are going to use a class named as action chains. This is the class name. So action chains are a way to automate low-level interactions such as mouse movement, mouse button, key press actions, context menu. These actions can be used to emulate complex gestures like drag and drop that might involve hovering over the elements followed by a right click. Basically, the actions that we perform, this can be handled through the action class. Now steps to perform right click. So first we have to initialize actions. Second, we have to add action where we have to apply on which element. And third, we have to perform the actions. These are the three sections that we have to do. It's very simple. Locate the element where you have to perform right click. Next thing, just go use the action class, and in that action class just pass the driver, and using that driver call the method which is call the method that applied to perform right click. So in this case the method to perform right click is context click, and at last just to add two things, perform and actions. That's all. Build.perform, you have to add to perform the actions. Cool. Now, this is the website. If you see this right click, when I click on this button, nothing is happening. But when I do right click, I get a lot of options here. Now this we'll be doing through code. So let's get back to our project here. Let's do new and create a Python file saying that right click. Cool. Now I can copy the steps from here, any one of this. I'll copy these steps and paste on here. Now I'll change the website link. This is the website that I have to test. So I will test this. First, I will locate this element. The element that I will locate is this right click me. So now if you do inspect, you'll not be able to get the inspect part because right click gives certain options. So here I will take the help of this arrow and I will go to the right click me section. This is the right click me section. So I'll just take the XPath for this. I'll say copy XPath. And here I'll say I'm storing the reference of right click. So I write driver dot find element, and again I say by dot XPath, that's in capital, comma, here paste it. So this is the right click value. Okay, fine. So this is where I'm trying to store the value of right click. Now I want to perform actions. So I'll create a reference as action and I will use the class. So remember the class used to perform action is action chains. This is the class. And here I'm going to pass the driver. And now using this action reference which I've created, I will call the method context click. Now remember, there are a lot of similarities when you are using these things. There are a lot of similarities here in these actions. Basically, the three different actions that you'll be performing. One is right click, other one is mouse over, and the next one that you will come across is drag and drop. So now here in this context click, you will pass the element where you have to perform the right click. Now the next step will be build, dot perform dot build. So just you have to add right click, pass this dot. So here you will use only the method perform. Now let's run this code. See, the right click is performed here. So it's very simple. Just if you simplifies this thing, you will see here the first thing is like first you locate the value, the right click element, then you use the action class, action chains class basically, and there I pass the driver. Now using the reference, this method is important to know, context click. So remember, context click is the method that will help you to perform right click, and just pass the element where you have to perform right click, and this perform method is common to perform the action. So these are the three steps to perform right click. So if you don't know what is mouse over, I'll tell you. Uh, First, let's go through the definition, then I'll tell you that what this mouse over is. So in Selenium WebDriver, performing mouse over action can be crucial by testing web application where certain elements become visible or interactive only when the mouse is moved over them. To handle these scenarios, Selenium provide a way to stimulate mouse over using action chains class. So I understand using the action chain class, basically you can perform mouse over. So mouse over action involves moving the mouse cursor over a specific element on a page without clicking on it. This can trigger visibility of drop-down menu, top tooltips, additional options, and other interactive elements. And that depends on mouse presence. So here, if you talk about mouse over, I'll say this is our mouse over. Like in this eBay website, if you take your mouse over this, you see the options that's available, the options that visible here is the mouse over. These are the options, whatever the options you see, these are the options that act as a mouse over. So I take my mouse over this, and these are the options that's visible. So we call this as mouse over. Okay. Now let's see how to do this mouse over. So it's very simple, just like we do. So steps are quite similar. Just the only thing that matter here is that in right click, we use the method context to click. Here we are going to use the method to move to element. That's all. Now why I'm saying that way, let's understand. So let me create a new one where I will say mouse over. And again, I copy these few steps from here. Copy. Sorry, first I have to copy these steps, paste down here, go back, copy this ebay.com, paste it here. Now what I have to do here is I have to take my mouse over this, and then we have to just see the options. So this is basically a mouse over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to inspect this. Once this eBay is inspected, I'll take the XPath for this, copy XPath, find. And let's write code for this. So I'll say driver. Now again, I have to store the element. So I'll say mouse over element is equals to driver dot find elements and dot XPath. And here I'll paste the XPath and the value is stored here. Now again, I'm going to use the action. So I will use that action chain class, pass the driver. Now you see the steps are quite similar. That time we did for the right click, we inspected the right click element. This time we are inspecting the eBay one, where I will do mouse over, and using this action, I'll call the method move to element. So in this case, we are using move to element, and I will pass the element where you have to move to, that is mouse over element. And at last do dot perform. That's all. Everything is similar, just the method move to element is in this case. In the last case, it was right click. That's only the difference. Now when I run this code, you see the website will open and you see mouse over is done. So that element mouse over is done. So it's similar to the right click. It's not that difficult, not much of discussion required here. Just like everything is similar, just only what matters is the method here. In that case, in right click, we use context click. In this case, we use move to element. That's all. Now, I guess this is the third action that you will come across. Basically, the first one was right click, second one was um, mouse over. Now we'll talk about drag and drop. So drag and drop is basically an option where you drag a particular element and drop it to a location. That's what drag and drop is all about. So in this, what we are doing for drag and drop is we are dragging an element from a source and we are dropping it to the location. So if you want to see how it looks like, I'll show you in this website here. Like here, I drag this and drop it to the target. Basically, if I refresh this page, so this is my source element and I drop it to the destination. That's called drag and drop. Now, one new thing that you will see here is that you have not come across till now in any of this website is that here, you see this part of code, like this drag and drop is dependent only on this section. That means this is not coming outside the website too. It's not coming outside here. So that means it's not coming to the main page. So if you're not that familiar with HTML, so I'll tell you about one thing is that is frames. So frame is one concept in HTML. While designing, we use this thing where we have we put a particular section that's part of website, but it's not in outer space of the website. So frame is just like we are putting a frame, we are designing a section in a complete outer body or in the complete web page. That's what frame is here. So usually when we have to use something inside a frame, we have to switch our access to the frame and then use it. Now, if you want to see, when you do, you see you have this option also, reload frame. That means this is a frame section. When I do inspect, so it says when you see in the code this iframe thing, then that means it's a frame. When I'm using this iframe tag, that means it's a frame. So that means we are using frame in our code. So that's what we are using it here. So we'll write code accordingly. Now let's understand the steps. First, understand what drag and drop is. So drag and drop mechanism involves two major action, clicking and holding the mouse to the source element. So source element and move it to the destination. So source and destination are two things that we use in drag and drop. Now these are the steps to perform. Now the steps are quite similar, but no, here two things. What you need to know here is that's not similar to the last two codes is that here we have a drag action. So first we have to switch our access to the frame section. Second, we have to move the source element to the destination, and then we have to execute the action. So now let's do this. You'll get a better idea. So as usual, I'm going to create a new Python file, call it as drag and drop. And this is for right click. I copy this, drop it here. And I'll take the website link from here too. That is this one. Copy and just I will paste it here. Now what I said in beginning that if you are using a frame, so if you are using a frame, then in that case, you have to switch your access to the frame section. That's the first thing you need to keep in mind, that you have to switch your access to the frame section. So how will you switch? So here you will write driver dot switch to dot frame. This one. And just you have to pass an index knowing that there you have only one frame. So you have to switch your access to the frame section. Now here, yeah, you have to switch your access to the frame section. Cool. Mm, now I go back to the website. This is drag me to the target. I inspect this thing. Now here you have the ID is equals to draggable. So I'll take this ID. So I'll write driver dot find elements and I'll say again by dot ID and I'll give the value here is this. And I'll say dot just I'll store this element value as source. Now the second one will be the target. So I'll give the reference name as target, write driver dot find element again by dot ID, and I'll take the value in ID. That's for droppable. I guess this is the one. ID is equals to droppable. Paste it here. Now using driver, I'll call the method drag. So once the access is switch, now I will use the action. So I will create an object for action as usual. I will use the action chain. And here I'm going to pass the driver. That's all. Now, once this is done using action, you call the method here as drag and drop. So you will take this one where you have source and target in the parameters, this one. These things you have to keep in mind. Now here you will pass the source and the next one is target. And as usual, you will use the perform method. That simple it is. Now just run this code and you will see that drag and drop is performed. See, it's drag and drop to the designated location. That's what drag and drop does. And this is how we perform the drag and drop option. So I hope you are familiar with the frame sequence. Like here we are using frame just to move our access to the frame section. And next thing we are using this basically source and target, and accordingly we are passing the values here. So these are the different sections. These are the different things you need to know about the drag and drop. This is how we handle the drag and drop. And these are the different actions that we perform in real-time situations that's related to keyboard and mouse. So there are two different types of wait. One is called as implicit wait and other one is called as explicit wait. So first we will talk about the first one, that is implicit wait. Now let's understand what this implicit wait is. So when you set an implicit wait, Selenium WebDriver is instructed to poll the DOM for a certain amount of time when you are trying to find an element that is not immediately visible. That means that every element, when you use methods like find by or find by for a find elements by, WebDriver will wait up to the specified time for an element to become available before throwing no such exception. So try to understand what exactly we are doing here. So here we are doing a very simple thing, that is usually you have noticed when you run the basically when you are running the codes, you'll find out that the execution is very fast. It's like sometimes you're not even able to see what output you are getting. So sometimes the execution is such fast that you're not able to track the output too. So if it says that by default, the time limit provided by Selenium is 0 to 3 seconds. That means the maximum time that Selenium provides for an element to be located is 0 to 3 seconds. So if the element is located in that given time, then it's fine. If not, then it throws a no such element exception. So basically here implicit wait is provided by Selenium to add extra time to your execution. That means if required, extra time will be added to your code. Just like if more like just if you pass a time limit like 10 seconds, so 10 seconds of time will be passed, where you will get for an element to locate, you will get that 10 seconds of timing. So from 3 it's moved to 10. Now the best thing about this wait is that if a 10 seconds of time is given, then it's not that element is going to wait for 10 seconds. If you get the output in next 5 seconds, it will straight away switch to the next element. So that's again the best thing about the wait. So you have two different types of wait basically. One is called as implicit wait and other one is called as explicit wait. So these are the two different types of wait that you will come across. Now we will talk about the implicit wait here because that's the one we are talking about, and we will try to apply this in one of the condition, one of the website, that's the login website, so you'll get a better idea about it. Just a sec. Now, these are the steps you have to do. You have to set the global timing, duration of the time, and single unity. Typically, you set the implicit wait right after initializing the WebDriver before starting the interaction with the web page. So it's like you put the set time limit or you put this thing before uh, before the elements interaction starts. So we provide these details before that. Cool. Now let's try the website. Now in this website, I'll perform login. Like I'll click on this login. I'll try to enter the username, the password, and then click the login button. Now in some cases, this website executes very fine. Like there is no stoppage. It works smoothly. But in some cases, the values are not passed to the next level. So let's write code for this. So here I'll create a class again, a file, and name that file as implicit wait. Now first I will write code for that scenario. So let me copy a few common steps from here. Instead of writing, I'll prefer copying. So first let me write code for login and see if it executes fine. Though if the code executes, but still I would say that this implicit wait we add regularly. It's like it's something that's added. Mostly it's added after the website opens. So now here, first we will go for the click element. So this one. So I do inspect, I perform here. Now this is a clickable item. So I will take ID is equals to login. Cool. Login label. So I'll say driver dot find elements again by dot ID. Sorry, ID, and here in single quotes paste the value, and I'll do dot click. That's all. Now the second one is for the username. So again, I'm going to use by. Now let me check what is there for username. So go to the username section here. Now here you do inspect. So this is for the username, and here I will use the name locator and the value will be log. So I say by dot name and the value will be here as log, and I'll say dot send case, and in send case I will enter the username. Now for password, I'll do the same thing, driver dot find element by dot, again I have to locate the password too. So let's locate this, inspect, and name is equals to pwd. Cool. Dot name, and I'll give the value, and in send keys I will send the password, and that is this. Cool. And the last one we will do for the click one, driver dot find element by dot. Now again for log, right click, inspect. Again I will use name. Let's take the value. Dot name, comma, in single quotes, paste the value and just do click. Let's run this. It's a simple login code. I guess you understand what we are doing here. We have just written a login code and nothing else. So the website opens. Let's wait. The login is done, but the value for username and password is not passed on. Now, in this type of scenario, now whatever the credentials I have passed, everything is good. There is nothing wrong with the credentials or the details, whatever I have passed. Everything is good. Now, here in this type of scenario, we have to keep in mind that we'll be using basically, here we'll be using the implicit wait. So how we'll be using the implicit wait? So we'll be using the implicit wait here in this line. Just after the website opens, I'll write driver dot implicity wait and I'll pass a time limit of 10 seconds. Now let's run this code. Same code, same things I'm doing. This time it's functioning. See, I'm able to log in. So I guess you got an idea. Everything was correct, but only because the screen was changing. So it was taking some time longer. Basically it was taking some time to locate. So that time I'm providing through implicity wait. So this implicity wait helps you to give that extra time that is not provided by default by Selenium. So that's implicity wait. Cool. So that's how the implicit wait implements. And this is a simple line. So I'd say every time when you write a code or every time when you go for the code in testing a website, when you write a code for testing a website, remember to add this line driver.implicity wait so that by default, though it required or not required, this time limit will be given to you. So that's all about the implicit wait. Now in implicit wait, usually what we do, we apply a wait in general and it's applied on the complete web page. Now just to keep the performance better, we have explicit wait. That means using explicit wait, we can apply wait on some specific element. Like instead of applying wait on the complete web page, we will apply on some specific element. Some specific element like I know that this particular element takes longer or this element will take time longer to locate, or I am aware of this element that this will not be easy. So in that case, what I will do, I will go and apply wait to that specific element. First, let's talk about it. Explicit wait in Selenium allows you to define conditions that you wait for before exceeding with further actions. This condition should be visibility of an element, the element being clickable or even customized condition. The explicit wait are implemented using the WebDriver wait class along with expected condition provided by Selenium. So here in explicit wait, when we are applying, it has a separate wait called as WebDriver wait. Along with that, here we have to apply certain condition. Like there is a condition that's defined, basically saying that until that element is located, we will not move to the next step. So here there is no scenario. This is the steps here. So there is no scenario. In fact, I will explain you this thing in the same example that we did in the last time. Just for example, I take this element that the weight is required in this element. I don't want to apply weight throughout the website. I just want to apply on this element that I need. This element basically needs weight. So here in this case, I'll use WebDriver weight. So here I'll say web driver weight. So here we will use web driver or basically, oh sorry, this is Usually it comes with hint, but it's not coming in this case. Now you see here it's WebDriver wait, and in this wait I'm passing my time limit that I used to do regularly. Now in this wait I'm passing the time limit. That's the time limit of 10 seconds. So I've passed the time limit. In fact, I write driver here, comma, the wait time. Now the next thing, using this wait, now see here, just like we do wait dot until ec dot element of clickable, element to be clickable. So what I do is this element I store saying that wait dot until, and in this until we write ec dot, now ec is again, if we talk about this ec is basically, so if in this case, if in ec you're not able to find the import part, then in this case you have to write the import part on your own, like the same way, like form selenium dot webdriver dot support, the way the implicit wait you have written, support dot expected condition, you'll be writing support dot support, and I'll say import expected condition. This you have to write expected condition as ec. So now this line you have to put it here. Now you can change it to this. So here you can write ec dot element to click. So here you can write this line element to click. And in this element to click, you need to pass this element over here. So once you pass this element here, so basically you can remove this line from here by dot, this thing you can remove. So basically when you write this, that particular element is located. Now if you're storing the values, this click method is not required. So in this element to click, you will pass the element this way. So this is how we write wait dot until ec dot element dot. Now ec is basically I've given the name as ec for this condition, for expected condition, and element to be clickable. This is the method that will help to perform click on that particular section. If you are using for text, then it will be element to text. If you are using for clickable item, it will be element for click. That's how it works. So when you apply this, basically the explicit wait is applied on that specific element. Now this is not that user friendly, but yeah, this is how we'll be writing. Like things doesn't appear just by writing, but this is how we apply the explicit wait in real time. So that's all in this video. I guess I've covered all the topics in Selenium with Python to do. Later we'll be doing this in different tools like PyUI and in PyTest and Cucumber. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. See you in next tutorial with a new topic. Till then, bye bye and thank you.